Good evening. Welcome everybody to Words on Whisky, episode 63. It's been a while and delighted to be back, and we have a whole series of shows lined up now over the next few months. And to kick us off, we've got somebody that we've been looking to have on for quite a while actually, and delighted that she's agreed to come on at such short notice and give us her expertise on what's the industry has been going through and what's been happening. So just bear with me, I'll get Facebook up and running. And it wouldn't be fun if it was easy. Let's see. Okay, we should be live now. We should have Facebook on as well. So as I said, thank you all very much for joining us. Excited to be back. And our first guest in the new series is Sarah Kennedy. Delighted to have Sarah join us. Sarah is a brand ambassador, or certainly joined as a brand ambassador with the Belfast Distillery Company, and her role has certainly progressed to taking on an awful lot more than that. So let's bring in Sarah and welcome her. Good evening, Sarah. How are you?
Hi, Sergius. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. I'm glad to see you're home and not in the office.
Yeah, home at this time of night, but yeah, I don't mind working from home. You know, it's got a cozy setup here anyway. So
yeah, and of course we've all been used to it, I think.
Yeah, used to doing some of the late night shows, especially when you're working across the pond and stuff. You are talking quite late at night, so used to it by now.
There's no time zones when it comes to the internet. Yeah. Well, look, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to all our guests that are here. Look, I described your role, Sarah, as brand ambassador, but I know you do an awful lot more than being brand ambassador, and I suppose maybe some of that is also due to the fact that we have been in lockdown over the last 2 years, and now thankfully we're out of it. But what's that been like?
Yeah, so I started with the company almost 2 years ago now, which is quite hard to believe. And it's never really been month on month the same. Every month has been different. So yeah, I started as a brand ambassador really to start trying to grow social media platforms, start to get the brand out in Belfast City. So it's been a great run. Like, I've really enjoyed myself. I've really enjoyed how it's evolved over time as well. We have like tons of new distribution. The brand has grown a lot since then, but with that comes new responsibilities. It started off as quite a small team, and now we have more people who have entered. Some people who have moved on as well, but we do have new team members. So like any small business, everyone has to wear many hats, and so we all muck in and we all work together as a team.
Yeah. Well, maybe just to show then the team members, because let's see, because I know some of them, and let me see if it allows me to share them. Look, I'll come back to that in a bit. I'm having difficulty comparing the pictures. But your team, could maybe describe the company structure and how it was formed and why it was formed, and what the ethos is behind the brand. As I mentioned, it is an old company or an old brand being revived, but by Belfast Distillery Company. So maybe you could tell us a little about Belfast Distillery Company.
Yeah, of course. So in 2017, this idea started to, bring McConnell's Irish Whisky back to Belfast. It's a brand that was around from 1776 and traded right up until the 1930s. So it's a brand that we have to respect and make sure that we're honoring tradition. So the idea was to bring back this product, and obviously from there it developed into hiring people into the new team. We have Roy Goodlad. He's our distillery operations manager, who's probably the longest running employee that we have. He started back at day one. And then there was other roles in the company, and we had some sales and especially our company in America our sister company, Chromak Brands, they helped us a lot in the early days, which is why a lot of we have a good distribution there in America. So the team has evolved very, very quickly since then. Over the past, just over a year ago, we hired John Kelly,
Yes.
who you might know from who was in
There he is in the middle, isn't he?
Yeah, that's John in the middle, looking, the boss that he is, and then you have myself there, and then Desi, who is just second from the right. He's our new commercial manager.
Okay.
He started just around 2 months ago, but he's really hit the ground running. Super character, hits it off with everybody he meets, and also has got a chance to meet all of our distributors in Provine. So I think he'll be super for our company. Has great spirit as well, and loves the brand and loves Irish whiskey industry, but also loves Belfast and what we're doing. And then you have Roy there on the outside, on the right hand side, and he's our distillery operations manager, but also our blender, who sources the casks and chooses the liquids and the blend, and also decides what liquid we put on the shelves. So Roy's been with the company, as I said, from day one, and he's a super asset to us. And then you have Patrick there, who's beside me. He's our new financial director, and he's got a amazing personality for a financial director. He's a great one to have in the office. He understands what we need to do in terms of marketing and branding and traveling, and he's a super asset to the team. So all together, though, there's 5 of us, and we're growing again. We're in the process of hiring someone else through Invest NI for the graduate to export team scheme. And they're going to help me out in terms of the local market, and then in the export market in the next 6 months or so. So yeah, we're growing pretty quickly from what we were whenever I started in the role. And as I said, it's the company will in another year look completely different again than whenever I started. So really excited and delighted to be part of it all.
Brilliant. And obviously that's a photo there outside the Duke of York up in Belfast in the Cathedral Court. Yeah. And obviously you're a true Belfast girl, born and bred in Belfast, and very proud of your Belfast heritage, I know. So, I mean, we were talking about a lot of activity that's happening in Belfast around whiskey lately. I mean, you've got great ambassadors for Irish whiskey over there. I mean, you've got the bars, you've got Willie Jack, you've the Belfast Whisky Club with Paul O'Kane and Belfast Whisky Week, and you've got Bittles Bar, a great tradition of whiskey in Belfast. What is it about Belfast that has made it such a hub of activity? And I suppose that has spread further afield now, to outside Belfast.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you've been to Belfast, Sergio. You love Belfast City. I know that you do. And a lot of that is down to being a city of, we're very welcoming. We're very the hospitality industry is wonderful. The hospitality industry is really growing and it's really strong. We're really, really proud of our city, and we want to really invite people into the city, and that lends itself to Irish whiskey. Whenever you go into any of the bars that really embrace Irish whiskey, the staff there are trained to know the different flavor profiles of whiskeys, and to talk to people and the customers coming in, and to know exactly what whiskeys to recommend, which I think is incredible. They know their brands and they know what they're talking about, and they love their whiskeys. So a big part of it is that, and also, as you said, the Belfast Whisky Club. Nearly almost day one of my role, I joined Belfast Whisky Club, and the wealth of knowledge that I learned during that time. It's a relaxed area. It's a relaxed group of people. Everyone really has their say and their time. And we try some really fantastic whiskeys that I don't think I would ever try if I wasn't part of the club. So they definitely champion Irish whiskey as well, the club, and also Belfast Whisky Club Belfast Whisky Week is also added to the publicity of Belfast and how much we embrace Irish whiskey. And then also you get the likes of Willie Jack and John Biddle, and the way they love their Irish whiskies. And you have Willie Jack's museum and how he promotes Irish whiskey. And he doesn't just promote one whiskey brand, he promotes them all. and he really wants to see that grow. And I think anytime you speak to Willie Jack or you speak to Paul O'Hare in the Duke of York or John Biddle, they're really welcoming to bring new brands in, and also brands from the north. So I felt that me entering the industry 2 years ago as someone who hadn't worked in the industry before, I was definitely welcomed with open arms.
Yeah.
And then it's also worth noting that, you know, even in the likes of New York with the guys from the Dead Rabbit, Sean and Jack, they championed Irish whiskey for a number of years there, which also brought that popularity in places outside of Belfast and promoted the Belfast culture for people to come and visit us. So
Yeah.
you see that you get a lot of people coming in from hospitality, from tourism and hospitality in different countries, and they've heard about Belfast. They want to come, and they nearly already know what to expect. But anyone you speak to after a visit from Belfast absolutely love the city.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't speak highly enough of Belfast. I mean, the hospitality there, the variety of bars, the welcome people give you, the warmth, you know, and you know, very safe, very interesting city. And you know, having lived there for 6 years, you know, I certainly found it difficult to leave. But you know, I come and go, not as frequently lately, but yeah. So I'm looking forward to going back up there, and some absolutely fantastic bars that would encourage anybody.
Well, you know, even from pre-COVID times, you can see as it's opening up, specifically the Irish whiskey, things are changing. Like, I see that Finn is watching us here, and she does her whiskey tours. She started with Belfast. Yeah, what she's doing I think is fabulous. You know, she's bringing people around the streets of Belfast and showing them all those wonderful elements of history that I found so fascinating to learn about. So things like that are definitely, you know, more and more.
She's a true whiskey lover and a real fanatic on whiskey, and very, very knowledgeable. So, hi, Finn, and best of luck with the package that's arriving in a few months. So, look, it's great to have so many faces that and names that are recognised there. But, Sarah, just going back to you mentioned, you know, growing up and living in Belfast and not coming from a drinks background. Well, what was it that attracted you to the role and take on board that?
Well, it's hard to know what wouldn't attract you to the role, because it's just when I heard about the opportunity, I was just absolutely, I had to have it. I had to go for it. I was so excited. But previous to, you know, working, I came from a finance background. And previous to that, there was so much hype going on about whiskey, Irish whiskey, and it was up and coming and it was growing, and you were hearing about it in the media. You're also hearing about it in the industry. And the office that I worked in was actually just around the corner there from the commercial court in the Duke of York, so you could see it happening. And then also my partner Andrew does a lot of the insurances for some of the distilleries in and around the north, and you could see these distilleries coming to the fore, and you know, they were starting to build, and whiskey, obviously the gin industry had really boomed, and that whiskey was coming next. And so whenever we went to Whisky Live Dublin a few years back, actually it was 2019, and you could see all of these brands really coming from Northern Ireland and from the south of Ireland, and we met McConnell's there. Well, Andrew knew who they were, but I met McConnell's there, and I tried the whiskey, and I just thought it was fabulous. And then I heard a bit about the story and what was coming in the future, and I was at the launch party for McConnell's, and I was just so excited to hear about it. Not even out of the interest of working for the company, but just because it would be part of our city and part of the positivity and the growth of hospitality and tourism in Belfast. So whenever I got the opportunity to come work for the brand, I just was absolutely over the moon. I really didn't even have to consider it for very long. I was so excited to join the company. And
it's a very brave move, if you like, and a very diverse move. I mean, it's a lifestyle change completely. You know, going from finance to going into the drinks industry. Of course, finance is in everything, but you know, a real lifestyle choice change.
You have to. I mean, I have worked in hospitality before, and I know that hospitality, there's a lot of that in my role. And
Yeah.
you have to, it can take its toll on you as well. It's quite tiring, but at the same time, when you're really passionate about something, it's a lot easier than if it's something that you're not passionate about. And I absolutely love McConnell's and I love Belfast.
Yeah.
But you're right in what you're saying. It was a brave move in terms of I was in a finance role. I'd been working in finance for almost 6 years. And I
Yeah.
also have at the time had a 6-year-old daughter. My daughter's now 8. And that also, the travel element of my role and also some of the late night working and juggling time with family was also a big thing to consider. But I've managed it really well, and I managed to incorporate that side of my personal life into my job. And I don't think I'd ever look back. I love what I do.
Yeah. Well, it comes through, Sarah. I have to say, it really comes through. There's John now. Good evening, John. Great to hear you. One of my real favorite bars, I have to say, Biddle's Bar in Belfast. It's just a fantastic bar. I passed by John's bar every morning for a couple of years, so he's probably sick of me. But we just see him.
Too, although I'm going to torture him in the morning, so hope he's ready for me.
Yeah, we got people from all over. We've got Dahi, but John Malios from Greece, Connor Winders as well. But it looks great to have people back. It's great to be back. But look, the business that you have, as you mentioned, it was a big lifestyle change, and of course with the travel element and the ban that there was on travel, I suppose, as well. That would have made the balancing, I suppose, looking after your young children and the role pretty difficult. But you had support, I assume, as well, and you managed to juggle both, and so congratulations on that. Just going on to the brand then itself, I have a couple of slides here from the old distillery. This is the old Chromak Brewery, it was called, but I mean, it's a site close to the bottom of the Ravenhill Road. I used to walk past it fairly regularly, and there's nothing left of it. That's the kind of absolutely, unlike other cities, Belfast was a rich enough city to actually, when it wanted to demolish something and remove something, it could do it completely and not leave any remnants behind. But so tell us a little bit about the brand. And this was McConnell's from, I think it was J&J McConnell's from the Chromak distillery that was produced, isn't it?
It was, yeah. I mean, just going back a wee bit before the distillery, the distillery there, the Chromak Brewery or the Chromak Distillery you're speaking of, it goes back really to the 1700s whenever the McConnell's family, they were, spirit dealers, spirit grocers, before they were distillers. So the family would have been in the trade for a long time before the distillery was actually built. And that's where the brand from 1776 comes from, that the McConnell's family had that brand from 1776 right up until sort of Hugh McConnell, who's John and James's father. He passed away quite young. And so Eleanor McConnell is the mother of John and James McConnell. And she actually was listed as a rectifying distiller at the time in the 1800s because her sons were very young. So she took over the business. And then whenever John and James were old enough, they built a distillery in the Chromak Distillery in the Ravenhill Road, which was really just the time. Belfast was a huge producer of Irish whiskey, and the demand was so high. So they built this distillery and they produced millions of gallons of Irish whiskey. They had 3 bonded warehouses in and around Belfast City, and they were very, very close to Commercial Court, Hill Street there. One of them was actually in Dunbar Street, which is just very close to the Friend at Hand, just outside Common Market. If anyone knows Belfast, that's where it is. And they had, a warehouse there that stored 500,000 gallons of Irish whiskey in a city setting, which I just think is really incredible. But unfortunately, they suffered a fire at that bonded warehouse, and at the time, realistically, looking back on all of the history during the time, including prohibition and wars and a ton of like the invention of the continuous still, Kofi still in Scotland, I think that was one of their biggest downfalls was the fire that they had in Dunbar Street. They did get back up and running, and they were in the media a lot to say, this isn't going to bring us down, this isn't, we're going to get back up on our feet again. But they did get back up on their feet, but they did trade until the mid 1930s, and at that stage, the McConnell's family had actually all left the business, and there was no longer any McConnells in the family, and the company was wound up in 1948.
Right.
So there was a long history with the McConnell's family and the brand for 125 years, but then the brand did die off for right up until we brought it back there in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like bonders, bottlers, and there were distilleries, of course, but I think the Chromak distillery, as far as I know, was the only one producing pure pot still or pot still Irish whiskey at the time, and there were a number of brands from what I could see that came out of that. And if I just go through there's an original, well, not an original, certainly a very old McConnell's Irish whiskey, and I think that came up for auction maybe 10 years ago. And I remember there being a huge fuss about it, that it could fetch €8,000 or something, or but nowadays you'd be glad to get your hands on that bottle. But
that specific bottle is in the Duke of York. No, sorry, in the Friend at Hand with that case with it. That case comes with it. I was in there early doors with Paul O'Hare during, like, just as COVID restrictions had lifted.
Right.
And he took the box out, and it's a solid box for a bottle of whiskey to come in. So it's an incredible collector's item, and it is one of the original McConnell's Irish whiskey bottles. That's it. That's it there.
Yeah. Oh, is that the actual one in the?
Yeah, and you can see the box behind it there.
Right. Okay. I mean, there's no finer collection of whiskey memorabilia than what Willie Jack has. Either at the Friend at Hand or the Duke of York or his store there as well. It's unbelievable what he has. That from mirrors to bottles to jugs, everything else. It's just phenomenal. Okay, so we mentioned the brand McConnell's, and it was of a very high standard and had a great reputation around the world. Unfortunately, like many brands, it met its demise in the mid 1930s. Mm-hmm. But what was it specifically about McConnell's that the Belfast Distillery Company what attracted them to that particular brand to go with?
I think if you look into all of the older brands, I think the fact that they had that Chromak distillery and that footprint, plus you could actually see the elements of the McConnell's brand on the walls in a lot of the bars in Belfast, but also further afield. You've seen a lot of memorabilia, even in America and across the water in Europe. There's tons of the mirrors and the memorabilia around from the brand, and it's a fascinating brand that we wanted to bring back to the city of Belfast. We are building a distillery in Belfast, so we wanted to honor a brand and bring it back and almost look after that brand and not let that history die. So the McConnell's brand, whenever there was different ideas and different basically around what product we were going to bring and what the whiskey is going to be like, we felt that one fitted really well. And I think we did a great job, because I think it really works. And I think everyone who works for the brand and anyone who's got on board with the brand understands why bring back an old historic brand of the city. So I'm glad we did it. I'm glad that we've honored an old brand. And I've also really enjoyed looking into the history and those elements into Belfast City, because it brings all of those memories back, all of that history that was lost. It brings it all back again into contemporary Belfast.
Yeah. Well, you have two bottles, but I'll get the first release. And it's a good thing I wasn't doing the typical Zoom thing and just wearing shorts. But anyway, so obviously this is your first release, the McConnell's, and that's a pure bourbon cask finish. But in terms of the design, and I'm sure people have had a look, or people will get a chance to have a look, it's very sympathetic the design, the bottle design, and the labeling to the original.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's still pretty contemporary in terms of design, in terms of the bottle itself. But is that one of the key points about it? Is that it does want to be truthful to its past and
Yeah.
still attract a new audience? Is that more tricky when it's a historic brand to get a new audience?
Well, it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah,
I think with a historic brand, you have all these elements of the brand that it's harder to, don't have a clean slate and a clean canvas, and designers can't just, work on a brand new product development. You have to make sure that you're honoring the brand. And so
yeah,
I think our label really does that very well. We have here the label, we've seen the old bottle, it's very, very similar.
yeah,
But also the bottle design, the bottle shape, looking at it, it looks like a contemporary bottle, but it also has little elements of history on it too. Like
yeah,
even the neck of the bottle is meant to be modeled more like what an old whiskey bottle would have been like. It looks a bit more bespoke and not, it's not standard, as I would
yes,
say. The
yeah,
bottle is completely different at the top here with the decanter and the cork and the real cork. Then you also get down here, the bottle has this little crevice in it, that it means the bottle is shaped like a pill capsule. And the reason
oh,
behind that is because the whiskey brand itself, the old whiskey, used to have little recommendations from doctors here. And obviously, when we brought that label back, we kept this design, but we
yeah,
couldn't put the doctor's recommendations on because number one, they don't exist anymore to recommend our product.
yeah.
And it's probably not putting doctor's recommendations on the bottle is probably not recommended.
You'd be
So we shaped the bottle a bit like a pill capsule, and then we also added this little element, this little metal element, to kind of show the industrial side of Belfast City and a bit of a
Mhm.
nod to the docks of the city and the reason why Belfast is so industrial,
Yeah,
and has been way back until the 1700s. So just little elements, little bottle designs that when you look at it, you recognize it. And if you look at some of the old mirrors and the old memorabilia, this logo is very, very similar. But there's
mm,
also all of these other little elements of the bottle that really are our identity and our new identity and our contemporary self.
yeah. I have to say, I mean, the bottle design itself punches well above its price point. It is, there's a lot gone into it. It's very contemporary. And I love it. It's a real cork. It's got that brass label and all the details. But of
Mhm.
course, it's important what's in the bottle,
Yeah,
Sarah. So maybe you can tell us about the contents and
of course. So this is our first release, and it's a release that we did a launch party the other day, and I sort of said it's been my best friend. It's been with me through thick and thin over the past 2 years, and I just think it's a fabulous whiskey. So it's a 42% ABV blended Irish whiskey of Irish grain and Irish malt.
yeah,
Um, and it's aged in first fill ex bourbon barrels for a minimum of 5 years. We put the age statement on the bottle.
yeah,
Um, but it has those fresh notes on the nose, like ripe fruits, like freshly cut melon and stone fruits.
yeah, yeah. Notes of honey off it.
Yeah, you get the honey off it too, and
Mm. Citrus.
the citrus notes too, which makes it really versatile in terms of mixes and cocktails. And I do like a cocktail. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I absolutely love cocktails, especially whiskey cocktails. I find that it's very complex to make a whiskey cocktail, and people who can do it right are just fabulous. So
Yeah. Well, look, Sláinte. I can't
Sláinte.
look at it anymore. I have to.
And I'm sipping out of my branded Tua glass. Like I love Rosie, and I think she's been fabulous to work with from day one. So Sláinte to Rosie too.
Sláinte. Yeah, I mean, it's great. 42% is, there's a lot of talk about having higher ABVs, but this ABV actually suits this particular whiskey, and I'm sure it makes it more versatile for cocktails.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit about cocktails later on, because obviously through the lockdown period, people have been very interested in making their own cocktails at home, and I know that you're, certainly sharing some recipes with people. So maybe we can come back and visit that as well. But
Yeah.
as a brand, Sarah, and your role is really to convince people to at least try your brand, and trying it and then getting repeat business, I guess, is the challenge. I suppose getting onto the bar stores over the last years has been pretty irrelevant until now. But what are the challenges of being a brand ambassador and trying to convince people to actually taste your whiskey? And of course, I'd imagine that's a little bit more difficult not having a distillery, or does it make any difference at all?
It really depends on who you're speaking to,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people in Ireland and in Belfast and across the world really who aren't as knowledgeable about Irish whiskey as well. So they wouldn't necessarily ask the question about the distillery. But
Yeah.
the people who follow Irish whiskey and who are aware of the renaissance of Irish whiskey and the new distilleries that are being built, they do ask the question a lot, and some people even ask, to 5-year-old whiskey, how if you don't have the distillery, you do get those questions, but it's all about how you approach that question and your honesty. You have to be super honest in this industry. You do let them know that we do source our whiskey, like many other brands source whiskey. And I think even whenever we build our distillery, we'll be sourcing our grain whiskey. So it's
Sure.
something that we'll continue to do. And it's something that a lot of people in the Irish whiskey industry do. And in other industries too. Blending is huge in different like the bourbon market or tequila market or many other spirits around the world.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's the fact that you do source. I think it's when whiskey is sourced and it's kind of promoted as being their own. That's when there are difficulties. But I think you've been very transparent with everything from day one, which is great to see. And it wasn't always the case that brands were that transparent.
I think as well, telling people the story of the distillery coming is one of the most fun parts of it. It's to say you're introducing this whiskey brand that is 2 years old, and in
Yeah.
this grand scheme of a whiskey brand's life, that's very, very young. So
Sure.
you're talking a decade, or at least 7 years before we get some of our this 5-year-old blended whiskey with the malt into the bottle. So it's all about following our brand and following what's next for us and what's coming next. So the way I say when I speak to new people and I speak to people who are maybe a little bit more skeptical is just tell them a little bit of the story, be friendly, be resilient as well, because you're going to get tons of no's and tons of people who are skeptical. But I just feel sometimes whenever you're really passionate about something, and especially me, when I'm passionate about something, whether it's anything, I will sell it till the cows come home. So I think just a lot of consistency and a lot of honesty really is how you approach that with new
Well, I think
buyers.
that reflects the brand as well. I mean, Big Al, good evening, Al. How are you? From up your neck of the woods is saying that honesty is key and quality in the bottle shines through, and it does. It is a quality whiskey. I really enjoy it. Really well presented and really well delivered at a great price point, which is important, I think, as well. And Finn, a favorite amongst our tour guests, the history of the bottle. And the things, there is a history behind it as well. And you mentioned that I know planning permission has gone in. I think it's been approved even for a distillery to be built up north. And hopefully we'll see that happening soon. But we're still talking 5 to 7 years before we see, most of the liquid from that distillery. But is there an ethos about what type of whiskey you want to produce? We talked before, and you're very much keen on the experimentation side and trying new things. But would you be producing pot still? Would you be producing single malt?
The plan would be we have 3 pot stills in the distillery, and we'll be making single malt Irish whiskey.
Okay.
That's what the plan is going to be. And that distillery will be built. As you said there about the planning approval. It's just a waiting game, really. We're building a distillery in a very historical location, and with that comes a lot more steps along the journey. But we're really, really close, and the distillery will be built. And once we get those pot stills up and running, and we're having liquid come from the stills, like you said, we'll have to age that liquid, and in that time frame, we have more innovation coming, more expressions, and we will be showcasing maybe some of our liquids in closer to 5 or 7 years from now, but. We have a full future ahead of us, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah. I've kind of half disappeared only because I've run out of power. So,
no, it's okay.
You saved my bacon there for a bit. Yeah,
I just kept talking.
So I didn't hear from there.
You spoke.
Yeah, it's always something. But Marcus is there as well, so I don't know if Marcus. So look, that was your first release, and very successful it was, and you took that around the world, and I think it's done. I think it's done very well, actually, particularly well received abroad as well as at home. But I think it's done well in the States and in key European markets. And we'll talk about, as a brand ambassador, what kind of key markets there are and how you reach them. So obviously, the island of Ireland is a key market, I'd imagine, in terms of building brand awareness. But in terms of getting that brand out there internationally, what have been the challenges, and how do you do that? And in particular, is it more difficult to do because you're based up north with the Brexit issues and so forth, or is that not really an issue at all?
I think we haven't really been affected by Brexit, if I'm completely honest. I think COVID was one of the biggest issues that we had in terms of travel, because when you're a new brand, one of the biggest things for the export market is trade shows and getting yourself in front of distributors. Because the personal touch of a face-to-face meeting is just priceless. But I think because the whole world was locked down and everyone kind of got used to the Zoom calls and the educations online, we were really quick to get online and really quick to set up distributor meetings and educations. And we built our assets in terms of visuals. We made sure our brand message was really strong. And as soon as we could get up and running in those trade shows again, we went to them. We went to BCB last year, and I know a lot of brands didn't go because the scale was a lot smaller, but it was so beneficial for us. We met a ton of distributors while we were there. We met new people. We also met some of the distributors that we had, and we got that face-to-face meet and that conversation going. So I think in terms of Brexit, no, there hasn't been much of an issue with us, but COVID was probably one of the biggest hurdles that we had, and we found quite a strong way around it because we got distribution across Europe. Obviously, we were quite strong in America. We're in Australia, and then we're also just got into Canada there, and we have a new distributor in the UK, and we'll also have we're working closer with Irish malts as well. So next week we should have our sherry finish there too, our next release with Irish malts. So it's really, we're going from strength to strength, and the business is growing pretty rapidly, which is why we're growing our team pretty fast in the past few months.
But that's where your role has developed, Sarah, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of not just pure brand ambassador role. You play a very strong hand in you're almost the face of the brand, if I might say so, in terms of the social media and in terms of presence online. Certainly you play a big role there. And then are you part of the branding teams and marketing team then as well? Or is it just being a small team, you do a bit of everything?
I think my main role has sort of evolved into working with the branding and marketing side of things. I work quite closely with our design agencies. We're actually just redeveloping our website, which is going to go live next week as well. So that's been a ton of work for me. And then also organizing the launch party and organizing the launch event. We all have defined roles in the company, but my biggest role really is the branding and the marketing and what you see on social media and what you'll see going forward in terms of our advertising. And it's just incredibly exciting to be part of that. When you see something that you've been a part of from scratch, it's just an overwhelming sense of pride, really, Sergio. So I'm loving that aspect of my role, and I also love the education piece and the being on trade and meeting the likes of all of the key trade partners in Northern Ireland. That's where my main market is based. And I've also got to travel to different countries where I've never been before, and it's been really exciting too. So just there's so many elements of my role that I love.
Yeah, I saw you had a big trip in the States there. Was it earlier in the year, towards the beginning of the year? You had all over the States. So how did that go?
Yeah, I was there in February, and it was 5 days of just like intense working, but just stuff that I loved. I was meeting new people. People were really enthusiastic, and they loved listening about the brand and about Belfast, because Belfast is actually pretty hot at the minute in New York with the Belfast movie coming out, and everyone wants to know about the city. And people love to hear about, I know a lot of people ask about the troubles and stuff, but they also love to hear about how we've moved on from that. And I think people are all ears. And then also on top of that, we have Irish whiskey, which is on the up too. It's, growing rapidly, one of the fastest growing spirits in the world, and people are opening their ears to Irish whiskey. And then on top of that, I was very enthusiastic, and I was really on a high, and people maybe just were running on my enthusiasm. But it was a very, very successful 5 days. And I actually got to visit the Dead Rabbit as well, which I've been a bit of a fangirl about. So I got to meet the guys from there, which was brilliant. I loved that. So I got to do some things that I was excited to do, I was excited to see. And I also got to see Total Wine for the first time, and was completely taken back by how large these alcohol retailers were. So completely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, they're like big supermarkets. It's like going to Tesco. It's not a Tesco Express. It's certainly the big one. But I saw one. I remember seeing one photo of outside McConnell's bar. Was it? One of the bars was actually called McConnell's.
It was called Belfast. It was actually
Belfast.
It was called Belfast, and it was a funny story. When I walked in there, I met the guys, the owners, and they were just so excited to see someone from Belfast, which was brilliant. It was so welcoming. And they just ended up calling all their friends and saying, Sarah's going to call in and would you take on McConnell's? And, we ended up selling so much Irish whiskey that you do sell in Belfast, but it's a lot smaller scale. So it was not what I was used to. So whenever I walked out of there, I was like, wow, that's incredible, the amount of sales that you get just from one visit. But I know that the scale of the States is a lot bigger. But it was also great to see the enthusiasm, and they wanted to hear about Belfast, and they were all ears.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, as a brand, you punch well above your size in terms of the brand, and the number of people you have. It's it really has got good, great brand recognition now, and I think particularly maybe in the States where there's more Irish expats and so forth. But that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you actually, is how different is it selling into, say, Germany than it is selling into the US? Are the people's tastes different? Do they, prefer cocktails, or what are the differences between selling into different markets?
So different markets would, traditionally have their favorite spirits. And also there would be markets that would maybe not have much of a cocktail culture, and also not have an Irish whiskey culture. Maybe they are more into scotches, and Scotch whiskey is bigger where they are, or even they're not as much into spirits. But I do think that with America, because the Irish whiskey industry is growing so fast, and because a lot of people from America love their Irish heritage too, I find it easy, not easier, but different selling to people in the States. So, and you have to remember that I've only been to BCB in terms of direct sales face to face. So I got a chance to go to America face to face, and I always think that when you're sitting in front of someone, they're a lot more receptive to you. So I'd probably be able to answer your question a little bit better this time next year after all of the trips that I'm going on in the tail end of the year.
You told me some of the places that you're going, and I'm very jealous. But that's going to be a great few months now coming up, and actually a lot of the fairs are opening up again. So obviously, Whisky Live. If anybody hasn't got their ticket yet to Whisky Live in Dublin, There's still time. I think June the 10th is it? It's kicking off, and
Yeah.
you have the good fortune of being in the stand next to me, Sarah. As
I
if you
can't
have
wait.
that
I can't wait. We're going to muck in together, Sturgis, and
Oh yeah, well,
come take some. Oh, you can come stand at our stand. I'll stand at your stand.
that's a fair swap. Yeah, I'll supply the paper, you supply the drink, and we'll be
Yeah,
fine.
I'll cover your coffee breaks, and you can.
Excellent, excellent. It's great to be back at live shows, and like you say, yeah, meeting people in reality is really great. So
Yeah,
um,
I'm actually so excited to go to Whisky Live. I've only ever been as a consumer, and
yeah,
people tell me it's a wonderful show to be at, and it's also really hard work. But
yeah,
I love that sort of fast-paced environment, so I'm very excited to get down, and also to meet people from the other brands that I've met online and that I follow on social media. It'd be great to meet everybody. So
yeah. Well, tell me, in terms of other brand ambassadors and other brands, do you have a good? I'm not going to say good rapport, but do you? I mean, discuss things much? Do you, share resources? Do you communicate, or is it strictly very competitive?
Well, I was actually having this conversation a few weeks back, actually, with a guy, Ronan Collins, don't you?
Oh, I know Ronan. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
He's a super guy,
he is.
brilliant ambassador of Irish whiskey. And I was chatting to him about how, in my role, I have been, I've reached out to many brand ambassadors, and they've all given me advice, and I'd be quite friendly with a lot of them. We did an event in Bootleggers in Belfast for International Women's Day, and teamed up with Lauren from Bushmills, and that was
This
a
one.
yeah, that's us there. It's
Yeah,
I'm like the tall girl, and Lauren's the smallest girl. So you see us out together, it's pretty funny. So I was wearing heels there, and I'm about 6'1" in my heels, and
oh,
Lauren, I don't know exactly what height she is, but she's definitely smaller than me, so it's quite funny. But we work really well together. We're great personalities, and I actually value Lauren as a friend as well.
yeah,
And although we work for different brands, a lot of us work very autonomously and on our own. So you meet people out in the industry and on trade, and everyone's very welcoming. So I do
yeah,
feel that I've made friends in terms of other brand ambassadors,
yeah,
and I know I'll make some more again. And I think that's something that is wonderful in the Irish whiskey industry. Over the past 2 years, not just brand ambassadors, but the likes of Brendan from Cologne has been really supportive of me. The guys up in Copeland have been really supportive, and I've just, definitely enjoyed my time. And Jamie from Hinch, they're all my friends. I wouldn't
yeah,
really see them as competition. They're all people, and I've built like a massive rapport with them. So
yeah,
I think the brand ambassadors at the minute that we have in the Irish whiskey industry are absolutely super.
yeah. Of course, we're the face of the brand as well, and it's great to see that there is that communication and the rapport, I suppose, between you. Is it, would you say that as a whiskey industry, there are differences between the brands up north and the ones down south?
I've been asked this question frequently recently, and not necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the all of the distilleries that are in and all the brands that are in the north are all very unique themselves.
Mhm.
They all have their own thing. Um, and I find that too in the south as well. We are an old industry, but we're quite young and youthful and growing.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put a massive differentiation on north like and south,
Yeah.
but that might change, and I do think that there'll be different, like you have in Scotland. You have different styles of Irish whiskey and no, sorry, of Scotch whiskey. Maybe over time it will evolve into different styles, and there'll be differences between different distilleries or different areas like
Mhm.
Dublin, Belfast, Cork. But at the minute, I do feel that there's a big unity in the Irish whiskey industry.
Yeah. I have to say, I do sense that, particularly Belfast. I mean, there are a couple of cities that, obviously, if you take Dublin and Cork, they're huge centres for Irish whiskey. But in terms of enthusiasm levels, for Irish whiskey, Belfast is up at the very top. I mean, based on the size of its population, but Belfast has a real appetite and a real interest in the whiskey, both historically and what's happening new. So I think you have more real whiskey fans up in Belfast than the rest of Ireland almost. It's quite incredible, even from the bars. But like you say, to be able to have its own show that happens there and a whole week of Belfast Whiskey Week, it's quite phenomenal.
Yeah, and I hope this year, people do visit the city, because there's that opportunity to see what we've all been talking about
Yeah,
over the past number of
absolutely.
years. I actually had a launch party the other night for the sherry cast finish, and there was a guy, Drew, who came, and he does whiskey lore, and he's from America, but he was visiting all of the distilleries in
Yeah,
Ireland. And he came to Belfast, and I showed him around, because I'd been talking to him on a podcast about all of these different parts of the city and the history, and it was really good to actually show where
yes,
these are, and we've got Finn in the audience there. I'm sure she'd be really excited to see all of the tourists come, and for her to actually share all of that research that she's done.
yeah,
So I think that once people start coming to visit the city, I hope, especially during Belfast Whiskey Week, that people actually come and visit and see what we're talking about.
yeah. No, do if you get an opportunity to visit Belfast. And I know I actually have a friend of mine over from Canada at the moment, and he's doing a tour, and he's planning to spend 3 or 4 days up in Belfast. So I might put you in touch with him when he's over. But
Please
yeah,
do.
so you mentioned the sherry cask, and it would be terrible of me not to mention the sherry cask. So you very kindly, I don't know if this is available in the stores yet, is it?
Yeah, well, it's available in most of the stores in Northern Ireland, but in the south will be available with Irish malts.
Yeah,
So as I said, that should be available next week, and we hope that we will move down to the south of Ireland pretty soon, and obviously as we grow. But it's just down in the south. There's a lot of brands there that are building their brands, and so in order to really build our brand the way we want to, we have to think about what we're going to do in the south of Ireland as well. So for the minute, I think Carryout will have it in, carry with John.
yeah,
But in terms of stores widespread, it's not going to be as available as it is up in the north, but you can get it online in Irish malts.
yeah. Well, that's look. Thank you very much for sending this down. It has been opened, and we'll go through it now. So essentially, it's the same liquids there as what is in the bourbon one, with the difference being finished for how long in Oloroso sherry?
Just over 9 months in Oloroso sherry. We actually, I had the pleasure of actually filling a few of the casks myself. So
I saw. Well, look, I mean, the difference in color alone, you can see there's a huge difference in the color. So
it's just interesting what a sherry cask can do to a liquid.
Yeah, absolutely. Only after 9 months. So there's a couple of noticeable differences. Well, the big one being that this is punching at 46%.
Yeah.
So and non-chill filtered as well. So
yeah, we decided to go with the 46% ABV because we wanted it to be the product to be non-chill filtered. And it was just the best way to make sure that was done right. It also adds some complexity to the. We tried it at a few different ABVs. We tried a cask strength. We tried it at 47, and I think that 46% is at the sweet spot. And it's, as I said, it's non-chill filtered, so it changes the mouthfeel as well. But if anyone has it in front of them, they'll notice the nose and the different characteristics that you get straight away on the whiskey.
Yeah.
It has the Oloroso sherry casks that we had actually had Oloroso sherry in them for a long time. I think Roy had said our distillery operations, the guy who did all of the source the cask sourcing and blending had said that they're true Oloroso sherry casks. And so they give off a lot of characteristics of the Oloroso sherry that was in there before the whiskey. So you get leather notes, but you also get the dried fruits and figs and chocolate. I get a lot of chocolate on the nose.
Yeah. I get walnuts and figs as well.
Yeah.
I guess everybody gets something different. Akers is asking, is Is that a sherry cask from Hogshead or a Spanish butt?
Um, I'm not one to answer questions I don't know the answer to, so I don't actually know the answer to that question, but I
Yeah.
will find that out and I will get back to you and I'll answer the question. But they are ex sherry casks that
Yeah.
Oloroso sherry that the sherry was in there for I think 20 years or just over 20 years.
I'd imagine it's a Spanish butt, but you can't be sure. You know, it could even have come from Spain and been an
I'll ask
American.
Roy and Roy can get back to you, or I'll pop it on the comment section
Yeah.
tomorrow.
It's amazing the difference, though, isn't it, between the
Mm.
two? And are these going to be, well, I presume with the higher ABV, it'll come in at a little bit more pricey point.
Yeah, so in the north, the original blend is £35,
Yeah.
and the sherry cask finish is £40.
Yeah, still great value. Still great
Yeah,
value for what they
big,
are.
big step up, but it's a super liquid.
Yeah.
I think it's fab for the 5-year-old liquid with 9 months in a Oloroso sherry cask. So really proud of this. I think all of the team in McConnell's are super proud of this, and we will. It's kind of a what's coming in the future. I mean, John Kelly, who's our CEO, he has spent this past year really. We've all been thinking, what are we going to do next? What's coming next? And I think when he joined the company, that's when we started, making these decisions into what liquids we're going to rest in different source casks and in source casks. And we've actually laid down another whiskey, which I can't really share much on it, but that should be at the tail end of this year, and we're really excited about that one.
So we'll have something for Christmas.
Like, if it all goes well.
Well, I know there's huge difficulties. I mean, even we're getting huge difficulties, and the costs have increased incredibly for paper and bottles and cardboard and all that. And that might last for a while longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's the cost of energy prices. It's fuel that's really increasing all of the prices, and everything from glass in the bottle, and we have a ton of glass in our bottle. Quite heavy. The price of corks, labels, everything is increasing. But it's one of those things. It's industry wide. It's actually worldwide. In every whenever I'm trying to get any promotional material, it's exactly the same in terms of paper and printing ink and shipping costs. Everything is costing more. But we'll get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I mean, in the one sense, it's been a great opportunity and a great leveler, for certain brands. If you executed well, even if you're a small brand, you could manage to get a lot of reach through the internet and online and so forth. So
yeah,
I think it's actually played to the advantage of perhaps brands with a smaller budget than some of the big multinationals that are out there.
Yeah. I think when I started, the whole online platform and social media was incredible for me, just in terms of getting brand message out there and enjoying whiskey at home, and cocktails and all of those things that people were trying whenever everyone was locked in and had time to make cocktails and buy recipes. And I think people are still enjoying cocktails at home, just people are still going out in hospitality and spending money, but just not as frequently.
Yes,
so the making cocktails at home still plays a big part. But social media itself and online podcasts like this were incredible during the lockdown period. And I do think that people still love them and still enjoy them and have become so used to podcasts and live shows.
It'll be interesting to see how long the online phenomenon kind of lasts, but I think it's here for a while anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
This is at one of the trade fairs here, Sarah. Where is this one?
Yeah, that's in Berlin. So that's Barcon in Berlin. That's myself, John, and Roy.
Was that recently?
That was in October, actually.
All right, okay.
But it was my first experience in getting products shipped and branding a booth, and standing at a trade show in person in October. Whenever lockdown had only really started to lift,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of people, and it was very surreal, but it was incredible. It was a great opportunity, and there's me being papped by one of the people come visiting the stand, but
Was there
I look
is
awful
there a face mask
candid.
you had to have as well?
I look awful candid, don't I, in that photo? But
Is that a face mask you had to have? Yeah.
yeah, you had to have a face mask on the whole time,
Yeah.
which was tough, you know, because you've got a bit of a language barrier there too, and it was absolutely roasting. The
Oh yeah.
sun was beaming through the window, so by the end of it, you just wanted to get home and put a face mask on.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's this one?
That's actually in a American whiskey in Manhattan. So
All
that's
right.
a whiskey sessions where
Yeah.
we invited a bunch of industry people, and I worked this stand for a number of hours.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
and it was incredible, you know, the reception that we got. That was a long day. I actually that's a picture. I think I've tons of images of me wearing that shirt on that
Okay.
same day in New York because I was so many places. I
Yeah.
actually started off in the Dead Rabbit, then went all around Manhattan, was in this bar, and then I went to New Jersey and went to an Indian restaurant and was pitching to, you know, retailers over there.
Yeah.
And at the time, there was around 50 people in the room and just me, and I'd been talking all day. But it was incredible. It was such an experience. But it's just quite funny that shirt played a lot of got into a lot of pictures. It's actually in some
It
of
got
our
its
brands.
use.
Yeah,
Tell me, I mean, one of the things I know about you, sir, is you're incredibly hardworking and you're incredibly enthusiastic and very, very keen to learn because I know you've done lots of courses, you've done lots of research, you've done, what's your favorite aspect of being the brand ambassador?
definitely working on developing brand and developing message and content creation and also um, the new product development.
Yeah.
That side of thing, having the history gives you all of the assets and all of the heart and soul,
Mm.
but trying to translate that message was really quite daunting at the start. But we've finished it, and our website's going live next week, and I'm
Will it be very
incredibly
different?
excited to. Yeah, it gives all it's hopefully everyone recognizes and understands that the DNA of our brand is Belfast City and the fact that we are an industrial city. We're, you know, a lot of us are very hardworking.
Mm.
We all put the graft in. You know, a lot of the people in the industry work very long hours, but they're incredibly passionate
Yeah.
and absolutely love what they do.
Mm.
You know, small business owners. You've got the hospitality industry. Some of the publicans are just really inspirational.
Yeah.
And I hope this embodies really what Belfast City is, you know, the mixologists, the bartenders, the hospitality trade,
Yeah.
um, the whiskey industry, everything about it, it hopefully screams, you know, Belfast is an industrial city and that we, you know, roll up our sleeves and get the job done here. So
Oh,
um,
that's great.
I
That's
hope
great.
everyone enjoys it. We'll know next week.
Well, look, I had Ronan Collins. Ronan Collins is doing our cocktail sections actually in the magazine now, and you know he was saying how versatile your liquid is and how great it is for cocktails. So we'll see what if he's going to come out with any recipes for you now in the next while. But
Yeah.
so this is you were pushing a couple of cocktails or promoting a couple of cocktails there. I don't know what this one is. Is this
It's a Belfast Old-Fashioned, so
Belfast
pretty
Old-Fashioned?
simple recipe. It's just Angostura bitters and orange bitters, some sugar syrup with McConnell's and an orange peel twist with a bit of zest. It's
Yeah,
very fresh. When you drink it,
easy
it's
to make at
almost
home.
quite summery. What's that, sorry?
Easy enough to make at home.
Very easy to make at home. Very easy for some of the bars in Belfast that wouldn't have trained mixologists or trained bar staff in cocktails to make. Very, very, very simple.
Yeah.
But also one of my favorite cocktails to drink. I love a quite a spirit-led cocktail where the whiskey really comes through. So I do love this cocktail.
Yeah. And then now this isn't a whiskey sour, is it? What's
It's
the
a
name?
it's the Dunbar Street Sour, and I know I spoke to you about the fire that happened in Dunbar Street in
Oh
Belfast.
yeah,
So we named it after this fire, which sounds strange, but it's more to do with the resilience and the celebration of the brand came back again after the fire.
yeah.
And it's made with elderflower liqueur, lime juice, sugar syrup, and a little drop of salt. So it's almost like a mix between a whiskey sour and an Irish whiskey margarita. So
All
very
right.
fun
Okay.
drink, very light and refreshing. And anyone who tries it is like absolutely loves it.
Is that easy to make? Is that something you can do at
Very
home?
easy to make. You really just pour all the ingredients into a shaker or whatever you have at home that you can shake something in, a protein shaker or a
Yeah,
jam jar with some ice and shake it up and serve it over the rocks.
yeah, yeah. Look, it's incredible the work you've done, and the whole brand. You know, it's. I know John has a wealth of experience as well that he's brought to the team in terms of opening up markets, because that can be something that can make or break a brand.
Yeah.
Obviously, reaching the new markets in it. But look, I think was it two? It must have been 2 years ago we first touched base, and you know, sometimes you can see in people from day one that they're going to make a success of their career. And I think it was just the pure enthusiasm and determination and the willingness to get stuck in that has made you successful, Sarah. So I think you should be really proud. And it was a very difficult couple of years, I know, for you personally as well. So to come through and shine the way you have and do what you've done for the brand is fantastic. So, you know, it's certainly something that other brand ambassadors can take with them, and not just for, you know, in a maybe brand ambassadors, there weren't so many women, young ladies involved in whiskey now. You know, hopefully that barrier has been lifted as well from what it was. So
Yeah, you're definitely starting to see that. And I actually, you were talking about talking to me in the early days, and I still appreciate. I think you put up a post on Twitter like in the first week of me starting, and
oh,
I really appreciated you welcoming me on board, which is it's sort of been the running theme in the
yeah,
industry since I started. Everyone's been incredibly welcoming, and as you said, as a young, I say young, I'm not that young,
don't
but
don't depress me, Sarah, please. Don't
a young female. I'm definitely finding a lot more females in the industry than not that I expected, but I love meeting new people. I have six sisters and one brother. I'm a girl's girl as well. I have a little girl who's 8 and is just my little chum. So as much as I love a conversation with guys and enthusiastic guys in the industry, it's super whenever I meet other females in the industry, and even just introducing other females into the industry has been a massive part of what I do, and I really enjoy it. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's been
I think
fantastic to see actually. And I really think that, you know, it has been one of the phenomenal trends is
yeah,
that of new people coming to whiskey, I think women are in the majority. You know, and you know they're not taking it, you know, as the standard messages that, you know, this is the type of whiskey you're going to like and so forth. You know, they're determining themselves what it, and as it should be for anybody. So
mhm.
it's great to have the level playing field. But I suppose, you know, being a woman, you can relate more easily to new women drinkers coming in. Uh, other than the whiskey side of it, because I know you have so much spare time, Sarah. What is it you love to do?
Well, as I said, I work a lot. I have a wonderful family life at home with my partner Andrew. I also have a little girl who's 8, and I have two stepkids.
Yeah,
Joshua is 16 and Rebecca's 12, and I met them when they were quite young. So I have my hands full in terms of my home life.
yeah,
So I do love spending time with my family, and I love decorating and love like actually getting out and about and
doing
getting
up the new
active.
house.
I also love looking after my health. So I do drink whiskey and I love my food. So I go to the gym very regularly to keep on top of that. Um,
Yeah,
but I also have a huge, like, I have lots of siblings, and we have a very, very strong knit,
yeah,
really quite wonderful family life as well. So try to spend as much time as I can with them, and then also with two very wonderful friends.
yeah.
They're lifelong friends, and I try to spend as much time as possible with them. When I do get a chance to spend time with my friends, we end up hanging out for maybe 5 or 6 hours because we just enjoy each other's company so much. So I that's really all I can fit in, after
no,
all
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. Well, look, I tell you, if your kids are home now, they're incredibly quiet, which is you're doing a great job. It was bring us to the cinema or something evening.
Just well trained, No.
Very good. Tell me, what are the hopes for the future? What are the plans for the future, Sarah? And do you see anything emerging in the Irish whiskey sector that's particularly exciting?
I'm going to be incredibly biased and just say I absolutely love the company I work for, and I'm really, really passionate about it. And I really hope that shines through, that I'm very serious about my role, and I hope that progresses as time goes on. I think that there's so much to come from this brand. And just literally in my home city, in my back door, somewhere that is just incredible in terms of history for our city as well. I just hope that I'm with the company for as long as they'll possibly have me.
I'm sure you will. Well, look, congratulations to the brand. I'm really looking forward. And I know you get the number one question: when is the distillery going to open? When is the distillery going to open? It'll be open when it's ready. It'll be where we think it's going to be.
We've never been closer, Sergius. We're super close, and just keep the faith. We'll get there very, very soon. And I just hope everyone continues to follow us on, and will come actually and visit the distillery when it does open.
Excellent. Well, look, Sarah, thank you very much for your time. I know you're busy, and I'm sure it's exactly what you wanted to do on a midweek Wednesday evening.
I'm delighted to be on. So,
well, look, thank you. I know it's well overdue. So, well, there's David and Carolyn from Tasmania. So you have people from quite a diverse range of countries. So yeah, nice to see well, look, thank you very much for your time. I wish you the best of luck. Great to see the new release, and I'm looking forward to new releases going forward. And looking forward to annoying you at Whisky Live for I think 2 days solid. And yeah, all the very best of luck. Thank you for your time.
You too, Sergius. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Well, thank you very much to Sarah for joining us. Really a very, very enthusiastic brand ambassador, and beyond that, well beyond that role. Look forward to catching up with her at Whisky Live. And look, it's been great to be back on the show. I'm delighted to see that people haven't completely forgotten about us, and hopefully they will return now for next week. So next week we have Sabine Sheehan from Lamb Bay Whisky Company, and she has some announcements there and some news. And again, we'll talk about what's happening in the industry of Whisky Live and what their plans are for Irish whiskey. So thank you very much. Appreciate all your time, and we will speak next week. Good evening and sláinte.